Hi guys. All right, I wanted to talk to you guys about mediums and what the difference is between some of the mediums. Both of these have the same exact color. This one is the raspberry model. I need to do some modeling, so I thought I would play with this color. But I wanted to show you the difference between the thinning medium and the liquid thin. You can see how much more of a thin consistency the liquid thin is compared to the thinning medium. So the thinning medium is going to be a little bit more suspended versus your liquid thin. Let me show you the difference when we mix them. The mixing ratio too for liquid thin would be basically a 1-to-1 ratio. And then I always like to add maybe a drop or two of thinner depending on the consistency I'm trying to reach or what layer I'm working on. I like a little bit more of a runny consistency, but not too runny, where the liquid thin helps keep that pigment suspended. By adding a drop or two of the thinner, it helps me have a little bit more glide. So you can see how it is quite suspended, but it's a real thin consistency. And just look at how I'm dragging that coloring through. Now, let me show you the difference with the thinning medium. Thinning medium, I tried to do a 1-to-1 ratio just so that you could see the difference. You can do whatever you want for thinning medium. Liquid thin, I would err on the cautious side and stick to the suggested measurements with liquid thin, and that is less is more. And so more of a 1-to-1 ratio or less. Where thinning medium, you could have a 2-to-3 ratio mixture and be totally fine. So you can see how much more of a paste kind of texture or consistency that this thinning medium has compared to the liquid thin. Thinning medium is going to be way more suspended, great for those small details, great for creating some vivid coloring right away, where liquid thin is going to be nice with building up your layers thinly, but still have a lot of pigment to them. Just wanted to show you real quick between those two, and we'll talk more about some of the other mediums coming up. Okay, so now with the thinning medium, I have added equal parts of our liquid thin to our mixture that we created with our pigment and the thinning medium. So equal parts of these two, or your thinning medium and your pigment, to liquid thin. Does that make sense? And then I added a few drops of my thinner. So you can also see that by using your thinning medium, it's going to help kind of mute the hue of the coloring if you're adding more of your liquid thin and your thinner to it. So if you like that raspberry model, but you just wanted a touch thinner consistency, just a tad lighter with the hue, you can do that by adding your thinning medium with the liquid thin and a few drops of your thinner. Just another food for thought. All right, guys, so I just wanted to show you for an example what the model, or it's kind of a model layer, but more of a texture layer, kind of in between. This one did such a beautiful job. You can see they both do beautiful jobs, but it definitely goes on a little different. It has a little bit softer of a hue, where if I did straight pigment with my liquid thin, it was going to be a lot more pigmented. So definitely like how the thinning medium mutes that down just a tad. And then after having applied our texture, you can see how nicely it had gone on. Now, I won't go into details on how I apply it and all that stuff, but very, very simple. Using my cosmetic wedge just like you normally would, very lightly painting it and just applying it like you normally would. But very nice coloring. I'll show you what it looks like with this color. All right, guys, so both legs were modeled or texturized with the raspberry model. One using the liquid thin mixed with the raspberry model, equal parts. The other, 1 part raspberry to about 2 parts thinning medium with a few drops of thinner. So you can see this one is the one that we had done with the thinning medium, and this is the one that we did with the liquid thin. So they're very similar, but if you look very closely, you can tell that this one still is a little bit lighter. It's a little more muted, where this one is a little bit more pigmented. You can still see that this one still has that yellow kind of coming through from the base color of the kit, where this one, you don't see it as much. Both of them, this is the very first layer. This is the exact same color, but one was mixed with the liquid thin and one was mixed with the thinning medium. So just to give you an idea, so more pungent color, I would go with the thinning medium. If you want to mute the color a little bit but still have that good glide, go with the liquid thin. That's what I wanted to show you. I wanted to show you the difference between those, and we'll be doing more of these videos to show you the difference of some of these mediums and what they can and cannot do coming up, so stay tuned. Hi guys. All right, I wanted to quick show you what the thick medium looks like. We talked a little bit about the thinning medium and we talked a little bit about the liquid thin, but I wanted to show you the difference with the thick medium. The thick medium is going to be something that you would probably want to use to create a lot more of a three-dimensional appearance with any kind of skin texture or any kind of details, so on and so forth. Well, this little peanut that I'm working on, I wanted to add some milia to it, and so I wanted to show you what that looks like. Recap, make sure that you stir all of your paints, all of your mediums, if they've been sitting for a little while. You always want to stir them so that it kind of reconstitutes it. Sometimes the color particle doesn't matter whether it's in a Genesis line, an Irresistible line, whatever. Any paint lines, they can separate over time, because if you don't stir it, if you get a little fleck of that mica that's not completely emulsified into your mixture, it will leave like a little dark fleck on the skin. So that's why you want to stir it. With the thinning mediums and the thick mediums and all the different mediums, by stirring it, that helps make sure that the ingredients that is used to create these mediums aren't separated, so that you get more of a true consistency, you get more of an accurate appearance of what they're supposed to do. I keep my little popsicle sticks handy and mix those up whenever, and I use this to mute out color, or you can use it by itself. This particular one, I created a little bit more of a yellow coloring. I want to add a little bit of my thick medium to that. And I never throw my colors out or wipe them off and get rid of it, because that's just waste to me. So I always put my excess color that I may have finished with for the day into one of my wells, and then I use it for mixing other colors or using it for whatever I'm working on. Food for thought, this was, I think, a nail tip color that I created, but I wanted to mute that down, and I wanted to add a little bit of yellow to it, so it had a little bit more of that milia appearance. So you can see how thick this is. This is like if you were making frosting, the cream will have a little bit more of that stiff peaks to it, and then mix that up well. All right, so just to show you what that will look like. Real quick, I thought I would show you what little Nicholas looked like after we had finished getting him painted. I still have a few things I want to touch up and add, but here is little Nicholas, and you can see his cute little hair. We got that all rooted, and if you haven't checked out the rooting videos, those are in our member only series, so go check that out on your desktop. You'll be able to access that by joining. So that is little Nicholas, but let's get back to our milia. All right, I'm not going to go into a lot of detail or depth about this, but I just wanted to show you a little bit about what it looks like. Right. So I've got my medium here, and I'm going to touch my little tool and create my little milia. So you can see how nicely that milia will sit on the surface, so it's going to have more of a three-dimensional look. And then I'll usually take and do a couple other steps to make it even look more realistic. But that is your thick medium. As for the pour texture, those ones are a little bit different. As for some of the other mediums, move this out of the way temporarily. This one, the Dewy Effect medium, that one is going to give you that true dewy appearance. So not quite a satin, not quite a matte, but it's a really pretty dewy skin appearance. So that one's a really nice one. I would apply this one sparingly. I wouldn't do an entire kit with it. I would just use those in specific areas that I want to create more of that kind of wet appearance. Not necessarily wet, but that dewy appearance. I like to do that sometimes on like the bridge of the nose or the top of the cheeks or the eyelids, maybe the bottom of the lip, so on and so forth. So that's a good one for that. And your pour texture, this one to me is similar to the thick medium, but the difference is that this one is going to have even more of a stiff peak kind of texture to it. So it's going to be thicker than the thick medium. It bakes beautifully. I just got done doing this guy. Let me show you just for reference. You can see that really pretty texture. That is by using that pour texture. So I love this one. And it has a tiny bit of a dewy effect. Not a lot, but just a little, just enough. So that is a really fun product. Just an example of some of the mediums that you can work with. So we've got our thinning medium, we've got our dewy skin, we've got our thick medium, which I don't know what I did with. Oh, I'm working with it. Hello. I'll just put the lid there. Thick medium, and then of course you have your primer, your matte, and your satin. Those ones are pretty self-explanatory. So your satin and your matte is just going to be what it is, satin finish or a matte finish. Your primer, that's the good one to use if you've got those stubborn kits that might have problems having the paint adhere to them even though you've washed them or whatever the case might be. I use the primer almost all the time on the hands and the feet, especially on the tips of the fingers and the tips of the toes. It's the vinyl. It seems like it doesn't accept paint as easy as the rest of the kit. So I love this primer. It really helps that to stay beautiful and you don't have any issues with it. And you can do some repairs with the primer, and you can do repairs with your pour texture too, if you didn't know that. Anyways, food for thought. I appreciate you guys popping in and watching. I'm sorry I have been so busy. I haven't had time to devote some videos to you, so I will be making that up to you soon here. Make sure you check out our member only series if you haven't done that. For those videos, you'll have to access that on your desktop. You can check out the different levels that's right for you. There's different perks for each one, and we will be having a drawing coming up for a blank kit. So stay tuned, get on that desktop, subscribe if you haven't done so. If you are just casually watching, thank you so much for popping in. Thank you, Irresistibles, for sponsoring today's video, and all of you for watching. Have a great rest of your day. Bye-bye.